All right. This is going to be a good show tonight. Because usually when I've done this prosthetic foot, it's just me, myself, and I talking to the computer screen. So it's nice to have other people to bounce these ideas.
Well, we've got people. Come on, Johnny's on. Hey, Mr. Johnny, you coming skiing this year?
Woo. Let's see who's here. We got.
Karen, Tom Alfred. Hello, Tom.
Oh, Johnny B's in the house. Johnny B.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
It is awesome. Hey guys, as you pop on board, can you just throw something into the chat section just so we can make sure everything is working? Oh, we got Ashley saying, hey, see, Ashley's on it.
Yeah, you got it.
We got Michelle working, awesome. Sharon, and we're gonna have, Chris is gonna be explaining how everything works for Zoom for those of you who are new to Zoom. We've got Johnny B, we've got Bella and Liz, awesome.
Awesome. Hello. Hey, everybody.
Tom, I can't wait for you to see the post I'm going to do tonight for our show. Just saying.
Oh,
okay.
Uh-oh, I lost volume.
We can still hear you.
Okay, good. I'm there. It went away for a second. Hi, Tom. Good. Yep.
Hi,
How are you, sir? Johnny, looking forward to skiing this winter, Johnny. I hope so. And they've got that New Horizon camp. Come on out, John. It'll be good to work with you again. Okay, the chat's going down.
Glenda?
Right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so sorry, Tom. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I cracked it open. Think you can see that. That's a nice one, huh? The door one, I'll tell you. Yeah, maybe I should have had a little stitch on there, but I've been putting the skin resource on there and it'll get better.
There you go.
I'm a klutz, you know, it happens.
Okay.
Right.
A couple more coming in. Glenda, hello. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, well, let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Erbacher. I'm the product specialist for VitalFit. And myself and the team want to thank you for joining us this evening. And a special thanks to the group leaders for their support and helping these webinars be possible. Our topic tonight is picking the right prosthetic feet and ankles. We're gonna have lots of time for Q&A, so we'll designate that after the skin intro talk and then as well as after the topic of the evening. So feel free to go ahead and put the questions in the chat box and we'll definitely get to those. Before I actually introduce our fabulous facilitators this evening, we're gonna go through a few tutorial slides for those folks that aren't as familiar with the Zoom platform. So if you take a look at the screen, and you'll see the first slide is the tutorial for the desktop. The chat feature is to the right of your screen. And go ahead and type your question in there. And ideally, it would be to all panelists so that we can all see the question, which would be great. On mobile phones, you'll see the chat button as well. You want to tap that, click on participants. And then at the bottom of that, you're going to see the chat, and you can type your message and then click send. We have a raise your hand feature as well as share reactions. If you want to get super excited, go ahead and raise your hand by clicking on that. Then you can go ahead and lower your hand by clicking on it again. Give us a clap or a thumbs up. On your mobile phone, this is also a feature that you have. It's at the bottom of the screen, and then you'll see the lower hand indicator, and again, thumbs up and clap. If you'd like to ask a question on the desktop and the mobile phone, it's a Q&A button towards the lower part of the screen, and you can hover your mouse over to see all those icons. All right. So our facilitators tonight, first I'd like to introduce Cosi Belloso. She is a master's in physical therapy. She's been in practice over 17 years. She has her own clinical practice in Florida where she specializes in limb loss. And on Wednesday nights, she does a live Cosi Talks Facebook show dedicated to the limb loss community. So check her out and we'll have more information about that towards the end of the webinar. Our other guest tonight is Greg Mannino. Greg's been in the prosthetic industry over 20 years. He's been working with manufacturers as well as R&D. He's also a 22-time gold and Paralympic, Olympic medalist in downhill skiing. He's also a CP for over 17 years, as mentioned. So welcome, Cosi and Greg.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Chris.
Darlene, just to answer your question, we're not going to see your video, Darlene. You should be able to see us, though. So
that's right. Yeah.
You can get in the questions section. All right, guys. Well, welcome, and big thank you to VitalFit, guys. We've been doing these series of talks since summertime, and it's been a wonderful experience to be able to work with the whole VitalFit team, and as well as having a prosthetist. Ooh, I'm pointing in the right direction. To have a prosthetist to help bounce ideas and provide answers for you all in a really comprehensive manner. So excited about tonight's talk. This has always been a popular talk on my show, how to choose a prosthetic foot and the different classifications. So this has always been one of my favorite talks.
Awesome. Right. I'd like to say thanks, Cosi, and thanks, Chris and Jamie. And thanks to VitalFit to enable us to do these things, to bring some information to help everybody. So thanks for joining in. We'd like to see everybody chiming in and maybe what the foot choice they have would be maybe a good start, Cosi, and talk about, we'll talk about different feet and our experiences, what we think. And I think the biggest thing here is really realize, ask your prosthetist. A lot of prosthetic feet today, all the manufacturers out there will allow a 60-day trial. So that right off the top, there's an ability to test stuff if your practitioner has the time and you're looking into a new prosthesis. So don't forget that. But again, remember that VitalFit is really helping us to do this, to bring information. And the first thing that it really starts with, I think, is skin integrity. And I've got to say it, prostheses, you're all wearers here, and you know how demanding it is on your skin. So thanks to VitalFit for putting these on for us.
Yep. And guys, I do want to talk a little bit about the VitalFit line. It's something that, you know, those of you who have watched my show have heard me say many times. I've been practicing for 17 years. And for the past 17 years, before I knew about VitalFit, all I could really recommend to patients was just drugstore solutions for skin. Nothing that was really targeted for the prosthetic user, for people who have that tricky diabetic skin or issues with vascular issues. And this product line has really, it really has been a godsend for a lot of my patients and my viewers that I can recommend this to. It works with such a wide variety of different types of skin, different types of patients. It works fantastic for the sound side and keeping that skin healthy. So just to kind of give you kind of a quick overview on the products, they have a daily cleanser. They have a daytime moisturizer. They have a liquid to powder lotion and a nighttime moisturizer. And again, this is meant to be used as a system, but I do have some patients that they have their one or two particular favorite products to use. It's wonderful for sensitive skin, the diabetic skin. It's great for cleaning your liners out. The daily cleansers are great because it's really very gentle, but it can get rid of all that bacteria that's in there. And it helps with the sweat, the odor, friction and shearing, everything like that to help prevent a lot of these skin issues. And I know Greg is a huge fan and he uses it a lot.
Great, good point. Thanks, Cody. And I was just reading, Tom popped up here. He's never really good about keeping his liners clean. And now on the VitalFit products, 59-year-old double above knee amputee and a year benefiting from using this system. So Tom, great quote, great comments. That's exactly how I got involved with VitalFit. Is I was, like Cosi mentioned too, there's never been a product line that was specifically designed for the limb loss community. And when I discovered the system, it changed my life, changed my socket fit. I'm a prosthetist. I do my own work. I look in the mirror. If it's right or wrong, I can only blame myself. But I probably have a socket that's fitting 95% right. Maybe I could use a little tweaking, but I'm getting 110% out of the socket using the VitalFit. So Tom, on your comment about using the cleanser and keeping it clean, this is where it all really starts. You can have the best prosthetists in the world, everyone. But if you're not taking care of your skin, keeping your hygiene to a maximum, increasing your skin integrity, you could have quickly break down and interrupt your daily activities And we all know it happens. It's just part of life with the prostheses, but there's a simple solution here. So.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's good, Tom. I'm glad to read that. Has anybody else put in the chat box maybe who's tried out the VitalFit system? I'm real curious to see if we have users there.
No, I have to like the liquid to powder is probably my personal favorite of everything there. And basically anybody who comes in who has a hot spot on their limb, the first thing I do is I'm like, let's put a little bit of that liquid to powder on there. We're gonna to prevent any blister from coming in, and it works really nice.
Yeah, antibacterial, antifungal. So if you do have a little bit of a skin issue, breakdown, or heat rash, it's going to immediately aid the skin in healing. So that's really what the key is. If we can keep, again, our skin at its maximum healthy integrity, we're going to do better with the prostheses, no matter what you're wearing. Would you agree, Cosi? I think that. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think we've got quite a few people here who've been using it and really like the system. So again, guys, and I was having this conversation, we had this conversation prior. I have one patient who's a very active patient. And I try not to mess around too much with my patients. If they have a system that works for them and they've been using particular items and their skin is fine, then if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But honestly, the majority of my patients come in and there's something cooking with their skin, whether it's too dry, too sweaty, hot spots that, you know, the prosthetist is doing their best with to try to resolve some of those hot spots, ingrown hairs, Florida, sweat, and more sweat. So these products are a really great option to offer.
Yeah, so remember everybody, you know, your prosthetic socket is putting a lot of challenges on your skin, not only with pressure, with encapsulating sweat. So we can prevent a lot of these things happening, because we all know as soon as we get that hot spot or folliculitis or just a flat skin breakdown, we can be out of the prosthesis, which we all know is an amputee. Not fun, you know, all of a sudden you're doing well and then you've got to take a break. So that being said, I'm reading some of these. Everybody seems to love the liquid powder. It's one of my favorites too. If I can reduce some of the sweat and the pressure and kill those little bad bugs that are in the socket potentially, reduce my pain, reduce the soreness, they're fantastic for that individual. So.
Sharon, to address your question, what is the recommended amount to use on the skin? When it comes to the moisturizers, I tend to tell my patients, you know, take your shower and right before your skin gets completely dry, that's when you want to apply the lotion, because it'll really soak into your pores. And I usually just say apply a thin layer first and then just wait and see. It soaks in. That's what I like about this stuff. It soaks in really quickly. So it's not going to leave an oily and greasy residue. And if you see that your skin looks happy, it's not dry, doesn't have cracks in it, then you know you've applied enough. If you've applied just a little too much, like any product, you know, you'll see that it's oily and greasy. So if you have that oily, greasy feeling, it's because you put on too much, because this product, like I said, it soaks in pretty nicely. For the liquid to powder, that one you can kind of layer it on just a little bit more depending on your needs. So I have one of my current patients is a heavy duty runner, and she'll apply it during the run as needed. So if she feels like, okay, during the run, she'll put a little bit more and just layer it on just a little bit more until she gets it just right. Greg, what do you tell your folks?
Kind of right along the same guidelines is little is more kind of with the system. I've had a couple over applications with, but I think that people try to don their prostheses or their socket or their liner, whatever that may be, maybe too quick. You got to let it dry. One of the biggest things here is there's no petroleum-based anything in here. And petroleum-based products can break down your liners. They can stain your liners. They can break down the plastic in the socket materials your practitioner's using. They can delaminate the carbon fiber, you know, if it's prolonged exposure to petroleum-based products. So we're petroleum-based free. So we don't really, that's another thing we really don't want to think about. You know, she's using Vaseline all the time. Why did my socket crack? So it can happen, and we want to prevent that. And that's why we're here. And thanks to VitalFit to allow us to talk about this, because it's these little things that help everybody, I think. So again, I think what recommended amount of, okay, that's the same question. My question's coming a little slower. Yeah, I always kind of recommend a dime-sized little dab. Start there with the moisturizer. Again, like Cosi mentioned, I think with liquid powder, you can apply it as many times as you need. And I think we did have a patient, and his mother, a younger boy, training hot, back south, back east somewhere, and he was using it, and the more he used it, the better sweat prevention it became. So you're seasoning and conditioning your skin. So if you're using it 3 times a day, great. If you're that active where you're using it 10 times a day and it's working, that's great. Again, it's going to help and prevent sweating.
Yep.
Bacteria.
It doesn't ball up. I've tried over the years, these other liquid to powder lotions, and they get all gummy and this is nice. This does not, no, it's very technical, right? Just
gummy. Well, you know what? Gummy can gummy up your valves. And if you're wearing any type of suction socket or suction valve or expulsion valve in your socket, or that gumminess can really clog things up, and all of a sudden you have a suction issue. So to try to prevent using those products that create those scenarios that Cosi talked about is huge. Because I don't know if anybody's ever had it if you've got an expulsion valve that gets clogged up, guess what? Prosthesis that comes off very easily. So, and if you're not been trained how to clean that valve, then you're going back to your prosthetist and interrupting your activity that day. So again, avoid those petroleum-based gummy creators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys, tonight's talk on the prosthetic feet, like I said, I'm super excited because I love hearing the ideas from different clinicians and their thoughts and their takes on the different classifications of feet. If you line up 10 different prosthetists and physical therapists, they're going to give you 10 different recommendations on what kind of prosthetic feet to use. And now, compared to 17 years ago when I first started out in the field, now you have an overwhelming plethora of options out there of all the different kind of feet. And it's exactly that. It is overwhelming because you don't know what kind of a foot, no 2 feet are alike. You don't know which one you're made to use and which questions you should be asking. So the goal of tonight is not that you're going to know about every single foot out there. I don't know every single foot. I'm nowhere near knowing about every single foot out there. But it's to teach you the different basic classifications of feet. And this is uniform across all of your manufacturers, and who is meant to use which classification, so that you can then take this information and ask these questions to your prosthetist, ask your physical therapist these questions. I know that some of my viewers, just from watching this show and watching this particular talk, they've gone back and they've been able to sample more than one different kind of foot, and it's kind of opened it up a little bit for them.
Right.
So
yeah.
Kind of excited.
Huge point here. Like Cosi said, I think there's about 300 different prosthetic foot choices available today. Maybe even a little bit more. So there's a lot of different options depending on what Cosi said is what you're classified in your K level, because that interprets what you're going to be able to get paid for. So we always try to get everyone to walk a little faster and step off the curb and get a K3 or above the type of classification, because you get a little bit more performance in the foot. But if you're a new amputee, obviously we're going to start out on some lower technologies, and as you progress, you can be reclassified in your K levels. So that's a big one that really translates what foot your process may pick for you from the beginning. But I really think what Cosi says, there's so much information out there that you can do research. If you just Google prosthetic foot, you're going to have so much information that you can research. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, every manufacturer basically has about a 60-day trial. And you can trial out different feet if your prosthetist is willing to do this, and get a couple different options if you're, excelling in your rehab and you're getting into a K3 type of foot. The dynamic response or the hydraulics. And I'm going to let Cosi talk about so many of the different options here, but you can do a little research. You can try that. Like, I know Cosi loves the hydraulic feet, the hydraulic ankles.
I'm coming around.
They're fantastic, but there may be something that has a little more J-shaped toe that you may love. So there's a lot of stuff, and hopefully we can cover some questions here for you. So. And
Tom here is probably the most wealth of knowledge between all of us here combined. 30 years on Satch Feet, then 10 years on a flex walk. You've been there, done that, and you need the t-shirt now, Tom.
Right.
He's used pretty much everything from being an amputee. Was it 59 years, Tom? You've seen the evolution of sockets, knee technology, foot technology. I mean, you've seen the whole spread. So we're going to kind of give you the prosthetic feet 101 talk that I like to give also a lot on the Cosi Talk show. There's 7 basic classifications of feet that I like. This is how I visualize feet when I'm learning about a new foot. You have Satch feet, single axis, multi-axis, hydraulic, dynamic response, microprocessors, and running blades. And we're going to kind of just go through each category just from the most simple to the more complex, just to kind of give you an idea. This is how you should approach looking at feet. When you're being given, when a patient comes to me and says, what's this Triton foot by this company, by that company? And for me, I'm like, I don't know what Triton means. I go to the specs and I say, got it. It's this kind of a foot. It's either a dynamic response or it's, that's what I'm looking at when I look at these kind of feet.
That's right.
All right, first one, Satch Feet. This was Tom's best friend for a really long time. And for those of you who are my older amputees who've been amputees for many, many moons, you've probably used one of these feet, the solid ankle cushion heel. And it's basically, it's wood. It's a wooden foot with a little bit of a cushion back here in the heel. That's it. That's all she wrote. This is basically what was used. I know this is what I trained my patients on when I was first a physical therapist for many, many years. The good thing about this foot is it's very durable. It can take a beating, and it can really, and boy, did my patients give it beatings a lot. It's also a very stable foot. Because there's not a lot of movement, it's a very stable foot. And I'll still get the occasional elderly patient, for example, that might use this foot because they just need something that is solid and that will be there every single time they put their foot on the ground.
That's right. So very predictable. And that's where the Satch footer, they suit that newer user who's beginning. I think they're very safe. They have a nice heel strike. There's not much dynamic toe to them, but they're predictable. And that's why they've been so successful for so long.
Yep.
Probably the next one, if anybody's been an old-time user, I don't know if Tom's on here, the old flexible heel, which was more of the old Seattle foot. I know Cosi remembers this foot. They were amazing for the day and age of prosthetic foot development. So that kind of falls into that flexible heel foot category as well. So one little step up from a Satch fit, but a little bit more performance too. So
in the single axis. So then, then you're getting kind of into the single axis where basically it allows for the motion of dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. So in this foot, it's like Greg said, you have a little bit of a step up from the Satch, but you're still getting a very stable foot, and it helps actually with the knee stability, having that single axis available, okay?
Right.
This one has been historically a good foot for the above the knee amputee because of the fact that it gives just a little bit more stability in the knee.
Right, that's right. So it goes foot flat a little easier. So if you're trying to control a prosthetic knee and then you add a lot of movement at that ankle, you can create issues and instability initially for patients. So something that's a little bit more forgiving, a little flatter, quicker to the ground, it translates into stability and predictability. So it's, again, a good starting foot. I think they're great for the beach when you're walking in the sand. They're fantastic for that. They're not too expensive, so.
Yep, and that's actually the one that comes to mind is the College Park has a breeze foot. I believe it's meant for the beach, and it's exactly that. It's supposed to be just a simple foot that can give you stability when you're on a pool deck or at the beach or in the shower or something slippery where you need more stability.
Right. So that is a great option to bring up, and I would have overlooked that there are feet that are manufactured for those activities, like water feet. A lot of the new manufacturers are, or current manufacturers are making the feet waterproof. Even microprocessor hydraulic ankles are waterproof today. But in the past, we didn't have that technology. They would say water resistant, last one we really want to be submerged. So, but having the ability, especially if you live in Florida, I would probably be on the beach all the time, and that's a nice thing. So you want to have something that walks easily in the sand and it's predictable around the pool. So that's a good point, Cosi. I would overlook thinking about that. So.
All right, guys, so we talked about the Satch foot, then we talked about the single access foot. The next kind of step up from that is the multi-axial foot, okay? So not only are you getting dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, but you're getting a little bit of inversion and eversion, the inner and outer movements of your ankle. So whenever you're increasing the mobility, any movement in a joint, you're going to lose a little bit of that stability. So you want this multi-axial foot, it's going to be for someone who needs a little bit of movement there. The nice thing is because it has a little more movement, you're going to get a little bit better shock absorption.
That's right. And if you're walking on uneven terrains, if you're doing any type of hiking, the foot will compensate for that terrain change. You know, if you're walking on this side hill. So multi-axial feet were initially designed to take less stress off the socket and give some ground compliance. So fantastic. It was kind of the foot we all had back in the 90s when they first came out with, you know, the Blaster had the dynamic response ankles and foot combination, and it was like a game changer when you had ankle motion from a Satch foot or a rigid type of ankle foot. I saw Tom put on here that he had the Esprits at one point. And that was basically a multi-axial foot, but there was no ankle to it. You were bending the carbon toe and heel springs to get compliance. So if they were set up correctly, they're fantastic. If they're set up a little rigid, they could give you some, you know, almost translate your gait for you because they'll be propelling you in directions you didn't want. So that's where the multi-axial feet are so great. I think that people, we don't see them as much. I don't know if Cosi does, but it seems like everybody, you know, just immediately wants to elevate them into the dynamic response K3 level J-shaped toes today, which are kind of the flagship for our industry for everyone, you know.
Right. I do see the True Step though. Like that's still kind of like the classic gold standard. So little history for you guys. The True Step came out is in, I think, 1988.
That's right.
And it basically blew the prosthetic industry away because that was like the first foot that was just like, holy cow, this is pretty darn good imitation of the anatomical foot.
Right.
But yes, this is something that, you know, again, way back when I was first learning about prosthetic feet, we had these very distinct classifications, but now we are starting to see what I call hybrid feet, where you have some of the multi-axial capabilities combined with the dynamic response components in the same foot. But for me, I still like to think about it in those terms and search out what are the different ways, because it does make a difference for some of my patients. Some of my patients, they want more of the movement, not so much the dynamic response component, and sometimes it's the opposite. So speaking of the dynamic response, some people call this an energy storing foot, energy returning foot, dynamic response foot. And it's basically that. I kind of call it kind of like a pogo stick. You push into it at the heel and that energy is stored so that when you bring your heel up and you take your toe off, you get that energy back and it puts a spring into your step is kind of how it works.
Good point. That's right. That's right. And, you know, it creates, if you can bend those J-shaped toes today, it creates some forward progression. So it smooths out your gait and gives you almost propulsion. And we'll talk about some feet that actually give you propulsion, you know, via microprocessor here in a little bit. But I was reading Johnny's comment here. Maybe it's a typo. Is there a cell on multi-axial or energy turn, John? I'm not sure what that question is. Is there a benefit to one or the other? It depends on the patient. It really does in your environment that you live in, what you're doing every day. If you're walking every day, or you're walking on the beach every day, or you're hiking mountains, it really depends on you and what your activity is. And I think a lot of prosthetists today will look at your, listen to your needs and evaluate what's going to be the best foot. A lot of patients today that I deal with, they already have educated themselves because of like VitalFit shows here at Cosi Talks that they know about things and they want to try. So, and I think that's great because they come in equipped with some knowledge. And that's why we're here, not just relying on a guy like me, a prosthetist, go, hey, I think this is the greatest thing in the world. We're going to use this. And a lot of guys out there that I'm encountering, you get great results with one type of device, and it's very predictable. 99.9% of the patients love it, and they'll use that foot on everything. So and I think that's okay because they know what's the prediction of the outcome, and and it's okay. I think that I'm from a little bit different mold of that. And I know Cosi, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I think. Like in my case as a user, I'm an amputee, everyone too. I like simple J-shaped type of feet, you know, because that's what it's lighter, less to go wrong, and they're dynamic, you know. And, so everybody, again, I guess where I'm going with my thought and comment is everybody's different. Let's evaluate what your goals are, where you live. If you're in the mountains or on the beach kind of theory, that there's an answer out there. And having the knowledge behind you is really important. So.
And guys, this is again where the conversation you can really get a lot from a conversation with your PT and your prosthetist. And the one example I have right now is a gentleman, a patient of mine from 2 weeks ago, avid hunter, loves to go on his boat, and he had been outfitted with some flavor of dynamic response foot, and it was a great foot. And I knew the company and I knew the manufacturer. I was like, this is a very good foot. But as we were progressing with this therapy and as he was getting stronger, he felt like there was something about the foot that was holding him back. And this is a dynamic response foot. So he came up it was time for him to change his foot. And I remember having a talk with the prosthetist, and it was a little bit, there was a little hesitancy because as all of us, we all kind of like what we like and we have our little rhythm and pattern here. But we were able to get this patient to try not only a different dynamic response foot from a different manufacturer so that he could have a comparison, but also we threw a hydraulic foot into the mix just to say, okay, you know what? You are technically a candidate for these 2 different kinds of feet. Now let's try across 3 different manufacturers and just see what feels better. And test drive these feet, because you're going to have to wake up with this foot and use it every single day. So don't settle for just the first one that they hand to you. Even if you fall in love with it, I tell people at least try a second foot to either show you that there might be a better option or to reinforce the fact that yes, that first foot was the Cinderella glass slipper that you needed. And the more I do this show, the more I get the chance to work with other manufacturers, and the more I get to learn about all the different options out there, the more vocal I'm becoming. Patients about.
Can we take a break for our first giveaway? I'm so sorry to interview, but it's very exciting. Take a little breather, grab a cup of coffee, and hopefully win a starter kit from VitalFit. It's got a generous amount of each of the 4 products. Jamie is going to insert a link into the chat box. If you click on that, go to the link and come back and just in 2 or 3 words, tell me the title of the first blog in our blog section. We're going to pick a winner in just a couple of minutes. So take a second to do that. And then if anybody has any questions, you can put that in the chat box now, and that'll give Cosi and Greg a chance to take a look at some of the questions too.
And guys, if for those of you who don't win the giveaway tonight, I have to say it's a pretty generous trial package, and it's very reasonably priced. Very reasonably priced, so you can really try out everything and see if it's going to work.
And for anybody that doesn't win tonight, we're offering an excellent discount code special for joining us this evening at the webinar. So I'll go over that at the end. So
Perfect.
Ashley, is that question for me, Ashley? How to build an at-home exercise routine? Well, without giving too much away, I'm going to be able to give you guys a resource and a tool, hopefully by the end of 2020. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But in the meantime, physical therapy, guys. You can't replace, you can't substitute a good physical therapist. There's just no getting around it, sorry. And I know there's a lot of you out there who don't necessarily have access to an amputee specialist. And again, this is something that I'm working on my end to try to see how I can help with that in the community in general. But those of you who do have access to a physical therapist, even if they're not an amputee specialist, they're still physical therapists. They have the foundation, they have that knowledge to put together a strengthening program for you. And those of you who are finishing perhaps your traditional PT programs, it is a very common thing nowadays, especially in these smaller private clinics, for physical therapists to develop maintenance programs for their patients and have them come in maybe once a month to tweak these at-home exercise programs. And again, it's something that I am also becoming very vocal about, because I see so many of my patients that they leave the clinics and they either get injured from trying to use the gyms, and these gyms are not adaptive for their needs, or working perhaps with personal trainers who don't have experience with amputees and don't know how to modify the exercises properly. So again, starts with a good PT.
That's right, and I agree 100% with Cosi, everyone. One of the things you can do if you don't have the Cosis available to you is I think what I like to recommend people to do is go walk. Start your whole routine and take walks. Because if you walk a half mile and then the next 1 mile and keep building up your walking, that is a very healthy environment and it's a very safe environment. I think Cosi hit it spot on. You go to a gym and you get a trainer like, okay, today we're going to do body loading squats with, 100 pounds. That is not the best thing to do in the world. I think, especially if you're standing on prostheses, the transfemoral prostheses, and then you want to try to simulate exercises that were designed for everybody without limb loss. So be cautious there. I'm not real big on body loading, real heavy body loading exercises. I like lighter's better, more reps are better, walk that extra mile kind of theory. That's going to be a better outcome, and it's going to protect you from injury. And usually the last thing we need is something like that to happen when you're trying to do deadlifts or something,
Yep. No, and I just realized that was the answer to the contest.
Oh, it was the answer? Okay, there it is.
Boy, everybody's asking all the same questions.
To put it in this time, and then Jamie is going to pull the participants and draw the name. So
okay,
mixing the groove up. So we were just giving folks a minute or so to put the answer in so that they could go into the drawing for the winning. So
okay, awesome. Well, good answer to Cosi because that's important. See, we're not rehearsing this. We didn't know the answer either, everybody. So good, but that's the fact. So.
And we have a winner. Ashley M.
Wow. All right. Congratulations, Ashley.
Congratulations,
awesome.
Ashley.
Very cool.
Okay. Back to you.
All right. So I think the two classifications we didn't get a chance to get to just yet. And we'll just briefly go over those and then just kind of field some of your questions. The hydraulic feet. And it was interesting. I was having a conversation with Greg before the show started, and I was telling him, about a year ago, before I started working with some of the manufacturers who make these hydraulic feet, I wasn't a huge fan. I was like, they're big, they're heavy, they're this, they're that. And as I started learning more about these hydraulic feet, and especially the microprocessor units, I'm like, there's really something good here. And some of the literature showing how the hydraulic foot, in some cases, can give you better gait efficiency. It actually it takes the pressure off of your sound limb. So it gives you a more symmetrical gait pattern. It takes some of the stress off the soft tissues from your socket. So lots of benefits to the hydraulic unit there that now I've been kind of just at some of my patients saying, hey, let's throw this into the trial foot process and see what you think. See what you think about the feel of it. Some of my patients will tell me that they feel like there's a smoother rollover compared to the dynamic response foot. So I still love my dynamic response feet, not tossing those out the window, but again, it's just nice to be able to have another option to give patients here.
Right, I agree. And I think I worked with a manufacturer on hydraulic ankles from the kind of the beginning of where those ankles were brought into this industry. And there was tons of studies on reduced socket pressures. Again, like Cosi mentioned, reduced wear and tear on your sound side. And this is a big one for everybody. You're walking on possibly, one or, lose less than normal situation, and you want to preserve your sound side. And if there's a prosthetic foot that, simulates a smoother gait and less translated pressures to your socket, which translate to a more comfortable socket, maybe that's a great option. Again, weight can be a factor there. So if you don't have a lot of proprioception, we add weight. Maybe I wouldn't choose that, but I think it's something to try. And there's different manufacturers with hydraulic ankles out there. I think Freedom has them. Blatchford has them. Who else, Cosi? I forget who else. Oser, yeah, Oser has their hydraulic ankle now. So there's a lot of different manufacturers and this sort of concept and theory behind that, but the end result is your foot's flatter to the ground sooner and safer. So it's more predictable. So And so that's a good thing. We all want predictability when you're walking on prosthetic feet. So.
Yes. And then the last classification, which is kind of my personal favorite, are the running blades. And the reason why I mentioned this is even though there's a smaller, very small percentage of amputees that choose to be able to run for whatever reason, a lot of them come and watch on the show. And I know there's a couple people here tonight that are runners. So I always like to include running blades in this mix. And mainly to say, you know, if you are someone who's looking to getting back into running, into jogging on a serious, somewhat committed level, this is something you want to look into. The same way that when you were running with two anatomical legs, you chose your footwear carefully. You chose a dedicated pair of running shoes to do your runs in. So now it's definitely worth the effort to explore getting a running socket and a particular blade and finding a prosthetist who knows how to fit a running prosthesis. That I'm finding out is very key.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the technology in socket design, the way you mount those running feet, a lot of things have changed over the last year. And it's just optimized the outcomes for the patient. So I agree with Cosi. The running blades are cool. They are very dynamic. They can, you know, really give you the propulsion and the long-term, if you're a marathoner, outcome that you really look for, and it will shave a tremendous amount of time off. They're cool. They're just the coolest thing out there. Or there's a whole kind of crossover foot out there that manufactures kind of a little bit of running blade with a little bit of walking. So that whole crossover line is the kind of foot I like to wear, because it gives me not the running blade dynamic, you know, and propulsion and response, but I'm kind of in between. I can walk on uneven ground, but if I want to jog and get going, I've got this real J-shaped, you know, semicircular toe. I can tell you which one I use, but I don't think there's a lot of people making them out there. So that crossover thing we missed out on a little bit. And if you're going into starting to be, I want to be running with my friends or my family or my spouse, those crossover feet are great. They're not running specific, but if you have the avenue of getting running specific, a crossover, great, super perfect stuff. But very important to look at the crossover versions of technology too.
And actually, a lot of times when I'm teaching someone to run for the first time, I'm like, I don't want you to put you in a blade just yet, because I want you to kind of learn the running mechanics first. Right. So the soleus has been one that's been a really great, that they use it for their, you know, their everyday walking foot. It can take a beating, but they can also be run in. For me, I always check with the prosthetist and say, can I run on this, or am I going to break it? Make sure.
Well, most prosthetic feet.
The prosthetist.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think all the manufacturers today, the standards of testing are so great that we can all be confident we're not just going to snap something like in the beginning of carbon introduction in prosthetic feet. So I got a question for you, Cosi, on this. So when you teach your runners, I used to teach a lot of guys at the shopping cart is how we used to start people out. Let's get a shopping cart, and we push that shopping cart and learn to run, because it gives you some prediction. You can't fall down because you have a shopping cart. So I don't know if I'd be curious to ask you that question, because we've had a tremendous amount of success teaching people running with a shopping cart to just get the initial cadence and down. So I'm curious, what do you do?
That's brilliant. I'm going to have to teach that idea.
Try it and give me some feedback, because I've done it a lot with people.
Wow. I totally, now I feel silly telling people what I do. That's brilliant. It's like a skip hop jump that I do, that I teach the patient how to do a skip hop.
Okay, yeah.
And it teaches them how to get off the ground, because that's the big thing. When you're running, you're in what's called a double float stage, where your feet are simultaneously in the air at the same time, which is much different than walking. When you're walking, there's always going to be one foot that's in contact with the floor. So that feeling of having both of your feet in the air for that split second, that's a real kind of wig out moment for an amputee first learning how to run. So it's a kind of a skip hop motion where they get it, but if they stumble, it's very easy for them to catch themselves. That, and I also have like myself and my big burly tech.
Yeah.
Right around them to make sure that they're not going to fall down and they feel safe trialing it out. So once they get that skip hop motion done, then depending on if they're a below the knee or an above the knee, there's certain techniques where I kind of break down the running cycle and teach them the different components. sometimes I just, depending on the athleticism of the person, I might just tell them, hey, just run. I'm not going to say anything to you. Just try to run. I'm holding on to them to make sure they're safe and just see what muscle memory is still left there.
Yeah, good.
Just judging by the kind of running pattern that I see, then I can say, okay, let's teach it to you this way, or you're good. Let's just keep you going and just keep you practicing.
Awesome stuff. Very interesting for me to hear how you do it. Because the biggest fear, and I think all the amputees on here, is to really, commit to that running step and be confident that your prosthesis will be there. But I think that we have so many dynamic feet, and 90% margin of the feet out there will allow you to do it and learn that timing that Cosi's talking about, which is so important. Just the whole, shopping cart thing, we take the element of fall out of it. So I don't know. It's something that we used to do, and some people would take 3 steps running and then, I don't need that cart, and they're done. But they would, you can engage it without the fear of going to the ground. So, or start on the grass too. That's always a good way to start. So, so if you do stumble, you're not going to injure yourself on pavement or something. So, so that's good. Good information. I learn every time I get on these shows. So thank you, guys.
Right on. And actually, I have a question, you guys, real quick. How often does someone typically get a new foot, or is that more, or depends on insurance?
A good question, Chris. Most prosthetic feet today have a 3-year warranty. So payers really are understanding the warranty on manufacturer. So unless you lost weight and the categories are too high or too soft for you, gain weight, or or you snap something, they're pretty savvy on that. So I think that translates on reimbursement, right, Cosi? I'm sure that's what you run into, or getting another foot. So again, it's a great question, because you're going to be walking on this foot for 3 years, pretty much, once you sign off on that prosthesis. And I love what Cosi, how she puts it. It's like, yeah, you're driving it. So trying different feet, trying different versions of the same category is always a great thing, because you got to live with it every day and put it on. So.
And that kind of brings me to the next point that I always like to make with folks, because the first thing they say is they'll bring me this, beautiful advertisement of this really high technology, gorgeous foot. And they're like, can I use this? And I go, okay, well, let's put that aside. The first question you need to ask yourself, and the first things you need to tell your prosthetist and PT is, this is what I want to be able to do with this foot. And again, that's why my patient example from 2 weeks ago was so successful, because he had his laundry list. He's like, I want to go back to hunting. When I hunt, I have to be able to drag a 150-pound buck. I have to be able to get up the ladder to get into the sight stand where he hunts from. I also like to go out onto my boat and do this and that. And I'm just like, hydraulic. In my head, I'm just thinking, okay, he's falling into this category. And he said, in his case, he was not very happy with his dynamic response. But what really helped make the recommendations was him telling me specifically what it is he wants to do in his life. That's how you choose your foot.
Good. I love it, Cosi. Goal setting. I think we talked about this on previous shows that VitalFit are here sponsoring for us, is setting goals. And I'm a big promoter of that with patients I work with if it's, what are you going to do in your life? You want to get back to normal activity, then set the goals. Let's write that down. And I think, just like Cosi said, fantastic example of somebody who's not going to be interfere his lifestyle because of amputation. So having the optimum foot obviously is great. If you're always in the water, you may want to think about that. If you're always in a ski boot, you want to think about that. So let's talk with your prosthetist. All prosthetists today listen. But again, don't get caught up in, hey, I know this is going to be the greatest foot for you. Question why if that comes to you, because I just had a patient last week I worked with. She was in a very high-end, very high-tech foot that's really loved by a lot of people. But as soon as she tried the foot that I suggested, she is actually loving the foot more. It's lighter, less bits and pieces. So again, from a recommendation that this is the best, you're going to do the grass, listen to your lifestyle, then you may put it on as the golden or the Cinderella slipper, and you're going to do great. But do the research, ask the questions, set the goals. I think you have like Cosi said, that's the most proactive way to approach this.
Right. And again, with these high-end feet, there's definitely set candidates. And this is something I also like to broach with patients, especially my K2 level patients. There are so many more options out there for the K2 user.
Hydraulic. Hydraulic,
yes.
Avalon.
And I see, sometimes I see my patients' wings kind of flutter down when I tell them that they're a K2 and they really want the K3, K4 foot. And I'm trying to explain to them, that's not going to be the foot that gets you where you want to be. And my favorite analogy is saying, I'm a mom of 4 children. If I bought a Lamborghini, do I want a Lamborghini? Yeah, I want a Lamborghini, but guess what? It would be sitting in my garage. It'd be a garage queen.
Yeah.
It would get no use out of it, nothing. And minivan gives me quality of life. It allows me to take my kids everywhere, be everywhere, throw all the groceries in there, and it makes my quality of life better. And that's kind of how I relate, the K2 versus the K4. I'm like, don't be disappointed if you were put at a K2 and you're being given a K2 foot. If that's the foot that's going to give you quality of life because it's going to give you more stability, it's going to give you more independence. That's how you kind of need to view things. So that's just my.
I agree. I agree, Cosi. Good points, because again, stability and predictability is what we want to have. And K2, being classified a K2 is not a big deal because the feet for the K2 user today are so much better now. 20 years ago, maybe they were a Satch Fit, and that's what you get. But so that being said, there are hydraulic ankles that are designed for K2 user, which predicts the foot flap quicker, and it's a safer, less stressful environment to learn as you progress in your rehabilitation. So I think that's great. Good points, Cosi. It's important, but again, don't be discouraged because, hey, I'm a K2. Well, you can progress from a K2 to be a K3 to be a K4. It's all about what we were just talking about, setting goals and excelling and taking that extra half-mile walk, whatever it may be, just moving ahead. So that's good. Good point. One fit we really haven't even touched on here is the powered feet. So I think maybe some of you have heard about powered feet, that they physically have a motor drive in there. Now these are a high-level K4 type of applied feet, but you may hear of like, bionic type of foot or the power. Those are out there. There's a few big manufacturers that have them. Again, they give you forward propulsion. So I think that it'd be kind of cool if you're walking up a mountain every day. It's going to push you up. Would I want the extra 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds at my ankle? Not sure. But again, if you have a great fitting socket and your skin integrity is great, then maybe that could be kind of cool,
And actually, I haven't seen a power foot yet.
You haven't used one? Okay, I've used a few.
One. I'm dying to see one. I'm dying, but no, nothing. Haven't gotten
cool.
there yet.
You can't sneak up on anybody. I'll tell you that, though. They make noise.
All right.
Good.
Take a little break if it's okay.
Yeah.
And give some folks an opportunity if they'd like to put some questions in the chat. But also, I'm very excited to offer a full-size kit. Paul is going to put the link into the chat box. If you click the link, please take a moment to fill out the survey. And then once you do that, come back to us and we will draw a name before we conclude this evening. So please check out the link and share your thoughts. It'll really help us in the future. And again, we'll draw the winner for the full-size kit.
Tom, don't apologize. You were spot on. It was fine. I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, I see Tom put it up there. How's the other guy? It was a door, Tom. So yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
I read that comment.
No apology. The door won. Yeah. Comes down to exhaustion and not paying attention. So, and then,
well, for me, I like to walk into things right when I'm working with a patient, because then I'm just like, yes, I'm the physical therapist who's going to teach you how to walk as I'm walking into something.
That's right. Even the PTs fall over occasionally, right?
Oh, yeah. All the best times.
Let's see. I'm trying to read some of these quotes.
Yeah, let me make sure we got
Well,
it.
it's great. We got a lot of attendees tonight. I think it's awesome that everybody's here and VitalFit's making this possible. If anybody has questions, please put them in there. We'll try to answer everything if it's pertaining to the current foot you have or a future foot that you're thinking about. I know Cosi, I'm more than happy to help because that's why we're doing this, to see outcomes be the best they can be. So ask the questions, reach out to us any, even offline, we're available. So
actually, there's one here from Darlene, and I did see that prior to get back to it. She was asking about prosthetic toes.
Prosthetic what?
Toes.
I'm scrolling.
Toes.
Like toe. Prosthetic toe.
TOES. Yeah, toes.
So is like a toe amputation type of scenario, or toe part type of?
So I think it was a question that had come in earlier. Darlene, would you please put in the question in the chat section just a little more details of what you would like to know about a prosthetic toe?
Yeah, I'm scrolling through there to look for it. I see Glenda has an echelon back. That's great. She loves it. Good job. That's awesome foot. I'm trying to scroll back to her comment here. I don't. So as we sit here and scroll, please put up some more questions. But remember, everyone, skin integrity is where this all starts. You can have a Cosi for a PT, and lucky you. But again, it doesn't matter if you have microprocessor ankle, microprocessor foot, microprocessor knee, the latest and any greatest technology. If your skin is not at its optimum outcome, you're going to be hindered. It's not going to. So the VitalFit system gives you a simple thing to do daily that will make your outcome better. And I'm not going to gloat, but yesterday I did 21,000 steps yesterday. 21,000 every day. I'm not, I couldn't get up and I had needed a wheelchair this morning. I'm kidding, but my skin's perfect. And it's the testament to how great the system works when you look at, if you translate that step into mileage, about 8 miles. And I don't have skin issues, and I would have been bloody without this system prior. So I want to put that out there while we're reading here. Okay, here it is. Prosthetic Toes is this. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. There are some companies out there making more of a cosmetic, because having your right big toe amputated, it's very cosmetic. I'll share something. My right big toe is missing too. When I was injured, I lost the right big toe at like the second digit. So I've got a quarter toe maybe. But again, there are a few different companies, Naked Prosthetics. I think it's more of a cosmetic function, but they can put it into a foot plate where you can wear it almost like a choke part kind of thing, Cosi. But they're out there. Are they going to be super functional? Maybe more to make you feel whole. I think it's more of an aesthetic thing. So, but there's some real natural silicone, lifelike creations out there. And I think New Life is a New Life Cosi that makes one.
I'm thinking, it was something on Instagram I saw yesterday, and I was like, I wanted to make a mental note, but they were putting the real foot next to the prosthetic toe. I could not tell the difference. It was unbelievable, the different shades of the skin coloring and the nail. Right. And
there's a lot of technology out there being
applied to that. I know of 3 manufacturers that might do toes. Okay. So my email will be available at the end. So if you reach out, I can get that information to you.
Yeah, I know locally I've got one prosthetist here. They're a fairly large mom and pop clinic. And the cosmetic work they do for hands is work of art. It's a work of art. So the other question was about partial feet. Vala had a question about partial feet.
Well, there are some systems out there for partial feet amputations. They're carbon plate, more of a cosmetic thing. Is it super performance? I think it's more cosmetic. I haven't really came across as a prosthetist. There's some game changer, like a dynamic response foot for partial foot amputation. So, but there are carbon plates and there are cosmetic devices. I've never done one. I'll be truthful. I haven't encountered that in my lifetime. So we could do some research. I'm more than happy to look into that for you, because that's important. I think a lot of times there's feet out there that we didn't talk about, Simon's feet. I think today's surgeons really don't. They tend to take a little bit more so they can put a dynamic response type of foot into the amputation. So that's thought through. We don't see a lot of Simon amputations. We don't see too many partial foot amputations unless it's a rollover or something, is where I've encountered them. But I don't have a good answer other than it's more cosmetic with a little bit of toe plate, propulsion. So.
Yeah. I know that back, I like I said, I don't see as many, I can't remember the last time, honestly, that I saw a partial foot amputation. Most of my patients come to me, they're already at the BK stage. But I remember in the early years that the orthotist would sometimes put a filler into the shoe.
Right.
To just kind of fill the space in the shoe, and also to give the person just a little bit of a lever when they were rolling over, depending on how high
that
amputation was.
Right, where that break point is. So
right.
There are and we'll do that, Vala. We'll look into that for you. I know there are some better devices than a toe filler like it used to be. And I did encounter a carbon plate version with cosmetic toes on that portion, but they're pretty custom to make. But a prosthetist actually showed me one a few years ago, and they had a little almost orthosis around the ankle, so it would give you some ankle support too, almost like capo type of theory. But again, I'm not my expertise, but I'm more than happy to look into it for you. So
okay.
my foot side.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, Darlene. So good question. That's it. That happens. It is available, but we need to do a little research on that. So.
Okay, and we have a winner, Lori A. Congratulations on winning the 4-part full-size kit. Lori and Ashley, would you please send me your mailing addresses? It'll be on the last slide this evening, so that I can mail the products to you. So again, congratulations. And we're hoping that you'll all share the webinars with your friends. If you go to our website, you can see the previous ones we've done on different topics. They're all recorded. Appreciate the shout out there. And I want to thank Cosi Belloso and Greg Mannino for yet again another fabulous share tonight. Again, we really appreciate your time. Paul is going to share the last 2 slides, which has information on Cosi's awesome show on Wednesday nights. And also the webinar code for a discount. Please utilize that when you purchase the products, and I hope you enjoy those. Appreciate that. And
actually, Tom Allred is going to be in the hot seat tomorrow night. Tom, are you ready?
Tom's in the hot seat tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Awesome, Tom.
Tom's getting grilled tomorrow
Good.
on the talk show.
Awesome, Tom. I'll be tuning in. I can't wait to watch.
You got to make sure you heckle him, Greg. You got to be the heckler tomorrow.
Okay.
Again, we really appreciate you. And everyone be well out there, and reach out if there's anything we can help you with.
Okay, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Cosi. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.